This isn't your typical motorsports podcast. You're listening to Crush This, a monster truck podcast presented by High Octane Coffee and J Concepts. A show where we take you inside the minds of your favorite drivers, past and present, of the monster truck industry. And now, your hosts, Brad Shaw and Dan Chichagash. Buckle in. The show starts now.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Hopefully my mic's working, because a lot of times it doesn't, and I start off with a bad pop, just like that. But hey, what's going on? It's another episode of Crush This, a monster truck podcast presented by High Octane Coffee, J Concepts. Also, like to thank 6B Apparel. Our crew shirts are $100 a pop. Go check them out. Also, Brad's healing, a little bit down on the weather. Last couple weeks, went to the doctor and stuff like that, and he's getting better. Health stuff's been improving too, so he'll be on next week. With me, we're gonna interview Austin Spence and Austin Tweedy from the the Throttle Out show. Take a look at their stuff. They're just kind of branding. Just did an episode with them last week. It was a pretty cool time. We talked about, what's been going on with COVID and also the independent side of life. But also take a look at Back Channel Productions. Nick Davis has just started filming stuff for the Outlaw Monster Truck Drags. Also, the Renegade Monster Truck Tour, which Brad Shaw Designs has been doing graphic work for also. J Concepts, take a look at their stuff. They're about to do their season kicking in off, and go ahead and take a look at all their new bodies that will be coming out here soon. All those bodies that you see on J Concepts will fit on the new LMT truck. That's pretty cool to take a look. JB Scale Graphics, official license of Bigfoot, Obsessed Bad Habit, Against the Grain. The new one, the Ripper. Go ahead and take a look at his stuff. He does decals and also flags for your RC monster truck needs. Go take a look at that stuff. That's pretty cool stuff right there, I bet you. Also, High Octane Coffee, Joey Sylvester. He's about to start his Outlaw Monster Truck Drags, so that's gonna be kicking off soon. And can't wait for all that's going on here. But also want to let everyone know, if anyone's near Etna, Oklahoma, me, Mark, and Tim, the Raminator, will be at the Mega Promotion Monster Truck Show there. We'll be on display at the local Ram dealership there in Etna, but we'll be facing off against the full throttle teams of Kamikaze, Vendetta, and Jurassic Attack in a racing and freestyle competition wheelies full-fledged monster truck show. So if you're around the area in Etna, Oklahoma, go ahead and take a look at that. It'll be a fun time. So after awesome news and notes, that's about 5 minutes. That sounds like a pretty good time. I'm going to introduce our guest. And this guy, this is going to be a 50-minute intro and only a 5-minute interview. And that's, he's laughing in the background. But no, when I first started Monster Jam back in 2014, 15, this guy took me under his wing, and I learned a lot about the industry from him. Others, but mostly him. He was the only one that was willing to accept me. They knew I was a fan. I'm a big fan of the sport, but a lot of guys never gave me the credit. And it is what it is. But the way his attitude towards me, helping me out, he helped me out. He also critiqued me and called me out, which a lot of times we need that in life. Thanks to my parents for giving me a thick skin, because my mom, on the other hand, hey dad, what's going on? My mom, on the other hand, whooped my ass all the time. So, and sorry mom, but you helped me out a lot. So anyway, with that, he also helped me out learning about the trucks and stuff like that. We did a little school and stuff. And we still contact. I even lived with him and his wife his now wife, Lindsay, and for a while, and traveled all over the United States, all over the world, and had some fun times, great memories, and man, it was we were the most kick-ass, badass air guitar band in the world. Take us on, we'll mess you up. So, no other than Bj Johsnon. What's going on, BJ?
What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Oh man, doing good. Getting ready for some monster truck shows. Getting this ball rolling. I can't believe it's been almost a year, and um, it's been a roller coaster for anyone in the industry. I mean, in the hearing from you, I mean, you have been doing some pretty crazy stuff lately. Even though you somewhat step away in the monster truck industry, you still never left motorsports in general. So catch up on what have you been doing since stepping out of the 66 realm.
Yeah, so when I announced my retirement was the day before Feld shut down, and we were always kind of already having like a plan, trying to figure out what we were going to do. But when everything shut down, there wasn't a lot of jobs, so I've always had CDL. My dad always told me, he says, you can always fall back on truck driving. So I actually got a job here local, and it's pretty weird, to be home all the time, but I got a local job driving dump trucks, and I did it years before, so I kind of knew how to work it. And I ran that for a few months, and then actually got some calls for a fabricator position because I've always welded. I did a lot of work on trucks in the shop, and even with all the fab guys, Tanner Swinehart and Squirt and Corey McGee, all them guys, we all worked together. A lot of people know, but the big ride trucks that they had for the amusement parks, we built those trucks by hand from the ground up, from tubing on the floor to what they were at the amusement park. So my fab skills were always pretty good there, and I had a company actually contact me about kind of work there. There's some of the guys that are actually from Monster Jam that work there now, so I still work with 5 or 6 of the guys that I always worked with for years. So that kind of worked out good. And on the side of my own shop, we've had some race cars roll through, some roll cage stuff we had to do. I'm in the middle right now of building a mega truck for Michael Brister. We've actually got everything here now, the new tubing vendors here and all that stuff. So we're going to get rolling on it. So we got some mega truck stuff to do, some mud bog trucks. I mean, we did lawnmower tug of wars a couple months ago just because we could do it. I mean, if it's got a steering wheel and we can tear it up or do something stupid in it, we're going to do it. So got some other things going on right now. Still staying in the motorsports world, helping some guys out here and there. I'm always a phone call away. Most of the independent guys know they can call me when there's a problem. Been helping some of them. I got some information that nobody even knows, and we're not going to discuss it completely, but I'm not saying I'm completely out of monster trucks yet. I'm not talking full time, but you might see me pop up here before too long.
Now, outside of that, too, you help out a couple guys up in Ohio with some badass pro mod cars. They normally go to Bradenton for that Winterbird. I'm screwing it up. Racing series. Snowbirds. That's it.
Snowbird National is the big pro mod race here in Florida, and the guys from Ohio come down. It's usually the two brothers bring their cars. If anybody knows the pro mods, the Quisenberries, they've done it for years. Everybody knows them, Patrick and Scott. Patrick's been pretty ill, so he hasn't been able to run his car. But I met them guys through Chuck Board, and he always worked for them. And man, like I said, if it's got a motor, we want to be messing with it. So every time they're in town, we go out and work on it. I think the only thing I do is put transmissions in that car because the minute I show up, there's a transmission out. The funny story was that the first time I ever met them guys, I showed up and they had a Linko transmission sitting on the table. They were having all kinds of problems with it, and I used to run a Linko in the barefoot truck, and Larry Swim and we used to rebuild them. So they're nothing to build if you've done one. So I told him, I said, if you got an issue with it, let me look at it. And he's like, okay. The guy's never met me before. This is like a $500,000 operation. And I said, let me look at the transmission. So we took the transmission apart, did some things to it, and I said, I think I got it. And we stuck it back in the car, and he fired it up, and he goes, man, this thing isn't shifting. That's what it was doing it before. And I said, well, I know what it is. So we unscrewed some stuff and looked down in there, and there's a little fork down in there, the air shifter hook, just like the barefoot truck had. And I said, hey, that's not touching. He's like, well, where's it at? And I said, I think it fell down in the tranny. He said, man, we're going to have to pull this thing back out. I said, no, go get me a clothes hanger. And I literally took a piece of chewing gum and a clothes hanger that I got from Chuck. And I said, I can get this thing back. And I've actually done that on the road before. Larry and I've had that issue. And we spun it back up, put it back on. So monster trucks from way back when, still doing the same tricks. It is what it is. We can fix anything.
Right. And where that drag strip's at, it's right next to that, I guess that YouTuber Cletus McFarlane. I guess he owns that circle track now. And
yeah, the Freedom Factory.
Yeah.
He took a abandoned old asphalt track that was nobody could do nothing with because the track was so bad. It was actually where we did some testing there at Monster Jam. We had a test track out there. He's turned the thing around. They do burnout competitions and they drift and they do all kinds of crazy stuff. Been out there a couple times. It's only getting better. They're doing a lot more stuff for the fans, and a lot more people are starting to get into it. So it's something new for around here.
Right. So let's go back in time here. You're a West Coast kid. You're starting out, motocrossing and stuff like that. So how did you get from dirt bike racing to getting to a seat of a monster truck?
So I was dirt bike racing and getting hurt all the time, and we always rode in Pismo Beach. Anybody that's from the West Coast knows we went to the dunes, and I always joked around. I go, man, I need something with a roll cage, and we went to a monster truck show in Turlock, California, just to go watch it. I've always liked them, and they have tough trucks there. And these guys were in straight bone stock trucks, and they were getting the hell beat out of them. These guys were flying on the catwalk and they were jumping. They looked like they were having a good time. I said, man, I bet you we could build something that's pretty safe and fast. We could come here and start winning. So we built a Blazer, a 72 Blazer, and some friends of mine put a cage in it, did some other things to it, and went back to Turlock, which was a couple months later. They were doing another show, and I met Randy Smallwood, Sherry Smallwood, and the boys when they were little, Jake and little Randy, and they were in charge of this thing. So they're like, man, we got a bunch of races coming up. We kind of travel all over the West Coast and do this. And I was like, all right. So we did tough trucks for a little while until my Blazer was so tore up that it wouldn't even run anymore. And we decided to build a pro stadium truck. So we took a 69 Ford F100. That was a show truck. It was a buddy of my dad's, and made an off-road truck out of it. Put a 327 Chevy in it. And that's where the Built Ford Tough with Chevy stuff sticker came from. Put it on the back of the cab, ran it 2-wheel drive. And it went from something simple to having $15,000 in this thing. I mean, it was just a big money pit, but we were having a blast doing it. We went to Nevada. We went kind of all over the place doing it. A lot of fast boys out there doing that stuff at the time. And went to Hawthorne, Nevada for an off-road expo. And there was a few of us with the pro stadium trucks there. No tough trucks. The tough trucks kind of went away. And they had a couple monster trucks there. Craig Christensen had 2 trucks there. Ranger Joe was there, and somebody else. And they were just there, and we were kind of hanging out with them. We had a 3-day event, and they had broke one of the trucks. Joe had broke his truck, so I was kind of helping him, and we didn't have nothing going on. We were just staying at the hotel, so I helped him that night. And then the next day, Craig was having some problems, so I started helping Craig. And he said, I'm looking for a new crew guy because my normal crew guy, Corey Clark, he's got to go back home and take care of some stuff at home. And I said, man, I don't know if I want to do that. I don't want to travel. I don't know. And I had my very first daughter was on the way. I said, there's a baby on the way. I said, I'm not sure what's going on. And Craig says, why don't you come to Red Bluff, California and work for me for the weekend? We'll sit down and talk. So a couple months went by. Didn't have too much going on, just normal stuff. Went and hung out with Craig for the weekend. Craig offered me a job. And he said, you just need a crew guy to drive the semi and work on the trucks. There was nothing more than that. He said, eventually you might drive. He says, well, we'll see what happens. So my ex-girlfriend, Harley's mom, she said, hey, why don't you go do this? Because this is what you've always wanted to try to do. So I sat and thought about it a little bit and went to do a show in Oakland, California, where I hung out with Tom Mintz and Cousin Rob and everybody. And I was running the stadium truck, and I think Gino was there. It's when he put it in the dumpster and like all these crazy things we used to do in monster trucks upside down. And I hung out with them guys, and Mintz is like, man, he says, you actually are a pretty good mechanic. You know, he's like, I'd like you to come work for my team. Well, I have a team in Salt Lake City want me, and I had a team in Jackson, Illinois want me. And I'm like, well, I don't want to go too far. I said, maybe I should just go try the Salt Lake City thing and see if it works out. Went to work for Craig, and Next thing you know, we're traveling nonstop, doing about 48 weekends a year. And we were running nonstop on those trucks. And it was only a few months, and then I got the shot to drive. And the very first time I got to drive, I won racing first night. But Craig kept yelling at me to quit hitting the brakes in the air because nobody did that at the time. Well, I was an ex-motocrosser and I couldn't see, so I'd lock the brakes up in there to get the front end down. Jimmy Cretin come up and asked me, he says, "What do you keep hitting the brakes for?" And I said, "It brings the front end down." He just laughed. "I don't think that works." Well, guess what? There's a lot of us that do that now because it actually does work.
Nice.
So then I started with Craig, and
Go ahead, BJ.
that was that. That's how it all started. No, just how it's all started. It was, I wanted it pretty bad and was working pretty hard to try to get it, and then just been at the right place at the right time. That's what it is. You're following dreams just like you. I mean, if it's the right place at the right time, you get a job offer.
Right. And then I think the first time I actually saw you on television was when you were driving the Shattered truck. I think it was in
Probably Houston.
Houston
Yeah.
show number 2. And then you jumped, you went to different teams. Then after that, I knew you from driving barefoot. Now you drove for Paul for a lot of times, and it was a pretty got to be a pretty cool learning curve on that team.
Yeah. So when I was actually working for Craig, I met Scott Anderson because he's the one that owned the Arachnophobia and Shattered trucks. He's actually the one that painted the Captain Insano truck when I started running that one for Craig. We gave him free reign on it. Craig said, "This is kind of how I want it to look." And Scott came up with the Crazy Flames off-road paint job type thing because he knew I was an off-road racer. And I ran that truck for a couple years, and then it was all a family-run business. I mean, it was the boys were wanting to start to drive, and they went to 4 trucks, and it was all family and me, and so I decided that I needed to leave and go do something else. And I went back home and was only home for a little bit. And Paul Schaefer called and asked me to come. He says, "Just come drive for me." If anybody knows Paul, it's like, "Oh, just come drive for me for a couple weeks, and then I'll send you back home." And so I said, "All right." So I flew to Gary, Indiana, and I hung out with them guys. And Michael Harper was there. He had just bought the Carolina Crusher truck. And that kid didn't know nothing. He didn't even know how to put fuel in that thing. So I was kind of helping him out. And Paul says, "Hey, I need you to go do this show. I want you to drive Monster Patrol." I said, "All right." So I loaded Monster Patrol, took it, ran the show. We won some stuff or whatever. Met a lot of cool guys. A lot of guys I still talk to now. Came back. "Hey, will you go run Boogie Van one weekend?" So I was running that. Come back. "Oh, will you go run Wild Thing one weekend?" And I was just truck jumping all the time. And I told Paul, I said, "I don't like that. I want my own truck." And Brian Womack was just getting ready to retire. And the black barefoot truck, the tribal barefoot truck, was down in St. Louis with Larry Swim. And he had Mummy or whatever crazy thing he had going on at the time, Scorpion King or something. And Paul says, "Why don't I just send you to St. Louis so you can team up with Larry and you guys can just run that shop there?" So I went down to St. Louis. I wasn't in the shop 2 hours, and Larry had the trucks loaded. And he's like, "Hey, we got to go." I didn't have my bags unpacked. And he's like, "We got to go to a show." I didn't know how to start the truck. I didn't even know the truck had a key in it. That's the only monster truck I've had that has a key in it. And the clutch pedals were weird and the Linko trannies and all that other stuff. But went, ran it, came back, and it was fun working for Paul. Like it was. He started calling us the Schaefer stunt team. If everybody remembers those stickers on our trucks, it's because Paul says all we ever do is cost him money and just wreck the trucks every weekend. But he forgets that he would call us and tell us to wreck the trucks because the promoter paid him for us to wreck the truck. So he wanted us to run the trucks as hard as we possibly could. Well, then we tear the trucks all up. We had no crew. We were the ones doing the tires. I was painting the trucks. I was fiberglassing trucks. Larry was building transmissions. We had the guy doing motors. That was, other than that, we did everything. Did that for a few years, and then Paul and I had I'd say a disagreement on money and some stuff that was going on at the time. And so I left there and actually went back to Scott Anderson in Idaho and hung out with him for a little bit. And that's when I started driving Shattered. And I drove the Pure Hell the tank for a little while. We were running all kinds of crazy stuff, building ride trucks and doing some other things. And then just kind of got burnt out. I was over monster trucks. Too much time just always on the road it gets old after a while.
So how did you get yourself in with Bill Payne and basically transformed one of his trucks to now a pretty popular truck as the California Kid?
So I was helping Scott out, and I was living in Idaho Falls, Idaho. Well, there's always a big show in Pocatello, Idaho. So Bigfoot and Bill Payne and all these guys would show up. Harper would show up. Well, they knew I was close, so they'd always call me and I'd come hang out with them. And I basically come work for free and just hang out with everybody that I knew, just being nice. And I actually drove Jurassic Attack for Don Frankish one time there, and I met Bill. Bill was there running, and didn't really hang out with him much. He had the Jeeps, and he was kind of out of control and doing his own thing. And we went to a show in Washington, Scott and I did, and Bill was there with the Jeeps. And he was having a lot of problems with hot stuff, and nobody really wanted to help him out because it was Bill. And Bill's, if anybody knows Bill, he's the nicest guy in the world, but he's really cocky sometimes. A lot of people don't like that. And I just thought it was funny, because I'm like, here's this guy beating the hell out of himself in a lease truck and winning. He deserves it. He can be cocky if he wants because the guy can barely walk. So I helped him out. Him and I became pretty good friends. We talked off and on. And there was a couple weekends that there was some shows close, and I actually went and built tracks for a promotion company. So I was helping them out building tracks, run the floor for them. And Bill and I were talking, and he says, "Man," he's like, "everybody that drives these trucks, they just this one little short wheelbase truck I have, they just keep crashing it." And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Yeah, and, some of the promoters are kind of getting upset, and it's not making the elements, and we're having a lot of issues with it, and I'm going to redo the whole thing." He says, "When I redo it, I want you to drive it." So I laughed. I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." I said, "You're full of it." And just how Bill is. Well, about a month went by. Bill calls me and he goes, "Hey, man, will you come help me out?" Well, I think I'm a sucker for when people say that. And so I said, "I'll come help you out for a little bit." So I got up to the shop, and here's California Kid sitting there with the black body on it. And there's nothing underneath it except for axles. And I looked at him and I said, "What?" And he goes, "Well, the cradle was all messed up, but I didn't think you would like it. I'll just cut it out." And I said, "Okay." He says, "Well, we need to fix this. We got to go to a show." I said, "When?" "Oh, a couple days." So we bottomed half a truck in a couple days and loaded it up and went. And that truck was a handful to drive. And it took me a minute to figure it out. I didn't crash it like everybody else. But you got to realize when it's only a 108-inch wheelbase, you can't jump that thing over a school bus wide open. It ain't made to air that thing out. But you also can ride wheelies all day long. So I got pretty good at doing wheelies in it. I could air it out if I wanted to, but you better been hanging on because every once in a while, dude, it would scare you. I mean, Donald Eppendendio drove it end over end, crashed it. Ed Miller's drove it a few times, end over end, crashed it. I think Devin Jones end over end crashed it. I never went end over end, but I literally went where the grill was touching the ground, and it would do it so quick you wouldn't even realize it. So I helped Bill out for a while, almost a year, and I was contacted by Monster Jam with Mike Wells. Mike Christensen and I will always talk, and he hit me up about coming to work for Monster Jam. So Mike Wells called me. Him and I had a conversation on the phone, and I went right to Bill, and I said, "Man, I'm not going to keep this from you. It's not a hidden secret. Monster Jam wants me to come work for him. I'm thinking about it." And I didn't even get that out of my mouth. And Bill's like, "Oh, man, that's awesome. I can't believe you got the opportunity. You need to go. Do you need to go now?" I'm like, "No, man, we're in a truck stop. We just got to show you." I said, "I'm going to give you a couple weeks, and I'm going to leave." So I did that, and then flew to Chicago and went to work for Monster Jam. And my deal with Monster Jam was I was going to crew. And they said, "Crew for me 1 year, and we'll get you a ride. If we don't get you a ride, we can shake hands and you can walk out the door and nobody be angry." So I crewed for Candace Jolly for almost a year, and then they contacted me about driving Mohawk Warrior, driving the second one. So that's when it started with Feld.
And you drove the second Mohawk Warrior, and a little, I don't even, screw it. A little known fact, I don't know if this is true or not, but if you won the Young Guns Championship, was it true that you were going to get a different body color than the traditional black one?
Right. So, well, I mean, it is what it is now. When I started driving the second Mohawk Warrior truck, George Bell was not happy. That was his deal. That was his identity, and he's the one that started it. And George did. I mean, George started that thing from nothing as an idea and worked. And him and I had a talk, and I told him, I said, "Man, I ain't here to take your job or take your truck. I'm just running the second one, and I won't let you down." I said, if anything, I'm going to make you proud. I said, let's get this truck let's make this name bigger. So we talked about it a little bit. And when we went to World Finals, they came to me and they said, hey, if you win the shootout and you go into the big show, we can't have 2 black Mohawk Warrior trucks. They're like, come here, we want to show you something. So I went around back and there was actually a purple Mohawk Warrior truck sitting there. Everything was reversed. So anything that was black was purple. Anything that was purple was black. And they were going to change it all around. They had beadlocks painted, they had everything. So I mean, not like no pressure for me. And it was cool. They actually made a Hot Wheels toy and stuff out of it, but I never got to run it. You know, I tried, and that damn Cody Saucier beat me by 0.0003 seconds or whatever. That would have put me in the finals. I love Cody to death, but I still give him a bad time about that. It's World Finals. You don't ever know what's going to happen. You know, I had good passes all night long, and I just screwed up that one pass. But they actually put that body away, and when I went and did the second one, the body was back. It was in the trailer, so it was there again. You know, so I was just like, man, I think this thing's bad luck because I ended up not even getting close that time. So there's nothing you can do. As far as I know, that body is still painted that way, just sitting in the rafters.
Dang it, man! And the crazy thing is George's face is still on the truck.
Oh yeah, George and I used to always joke around with each other. We'd start first quarter and we'd talk to each other, kind of like see what everybody's schedule and stuff were, and we'd always say, "Hey, we're like, hey, you know, cut your hair to 5 inches right now, and then when we get to Vegas, we'll see who's Mohawk's taller." We're like, "Oh, okay." So that was always the game that we played after him and I became pretty good friends, you know, and we worked together. I mean, if he was having a problem, he'd call me because they knew I worked on the trucks, you know, and he didn't know a lot about the trucks. He just knew how to drive them. And so I'd be like, hey, have him do this or have him try this. So it ended up being a team effort then. And it was like, let's team up and take care of this stuff. So it worked out good. We had a lot of fun with it.
So now you get a phone call around 2015 to 16 and giving you a shot to have your own identity with now the Gas Monkey Garage Truck. How did that come together? And how did you feel about having basically your own identity?
It was pretty cool. You know, there was a lot going on. There was a lot of stuff that people didn't realize. I went and filled in for Carl Van Horn and drove a Gravedigger truck. And I've always wanted to drive one of those. And I drove it and I was talking to him a little bit. I said, hey, if you need another Gravedigger driver, I'll take it. And I was going to go drive a Gravedigger truck, you know, and at the time they didn't need anything. And they were already kind of hinting around about the Mohawk deal, going a different way with it and whatever. And, was talking to one of the bosses, and then he just kind of brought up, he says, yeah, you know, we've got to put some drivers' names in the hat for this truck for this TV show. And I said, what TV show is it? And they're like, well, it's Gas Monkey Garage. And I said, that's funny. I watched that show. And they just kind of looked at me like, oh, really? And I said, yeah, I know everybody's name on that show. It's a cool show. It's kind of like we are, you know, I work on trucks and I race them. And when I'm at home, I'm always working on something. He says, so I put my name in the hat with a few drivers. I think there was about 10 of them, and sent pictures of ourselves and kind of what we did. And Richard picked me. He picked me out of everybody, and he says, I like the way this guy's look, his attitude, and what he does. He goes, that's us, that he fits us. And so they come back to us and said, hey, you're going to do this deal. You know, we're going to try to figure out what truck we're going to put you, or what chassis we're going to put you in. If we're going to leave you on your own chassis and switch the bodies and stuff out, of what we're going to do. And then that came back as, no, they want all brand new everything. So my wife and I built that truck in 14 days, and we had to build it so that it was a show truck. I mean, Gas Monkey builds show cars. They build stuff that gets auctioned off, but it's all show stuff. So that truck had a lot of little hidden things on it. It had chrome this, and this was polished. I mean, Lindsay wired the entire truck. She built most of it while I was polishing parts. I think I polished aluminum for a week. And Lindsay braided all the wiring in it. I mean, we had hidden lights in it, and we had little accents of stuff that no one would ever see unless you really got to looking, but just deep down, we knew it was there. So I put a lot of time in it, and was like, you go run at a show, get it dirty, and next thing you know, we've got to clean it. We would wash it, do all the maintenance on it, and then I would spend 3 hours polishing it back out for the next show. We wanted it to look 100% all the time. So we built that truck in 14 days, and the day we put the body on it, the body didn't fit, and we had to leave. So I had to figure out how to get the body on top of trying to figure out how to get the headlights in it. And by the time we got it loaded, the paint was still wet when we loaded it up for the very first time and headed out with it. But my wife says that she hates that truck just because we fought a steering issue with that thing for about 4 months and about $30,000 worth of parts, trying to figure it out. And it was no different than my truck. And still to this day, we really don't know what the steering problem was. We just got a solution to fix it. And it was a fun truck to drive. I wouldn't say it was my favorite truck to drive, but it was fun. It's cool that I had my own deal. I had my own identity, and Richard was really cool with it. He always took care of us when we were in Dallas. He's a cool dude. I mean, I still talk to him now. I mean, I haven't been in that truck in almost 2 years, and I could text him right now, and he texts me back. So we got a pretty good relationship over it and good friends out of it.
And I always thought that in a fan way, you had some old school Monster Jam on that modern day Monster Jam truck, which a lot of people didn't know about. You know, the headers. You know, the I guess what you call them, zoomies. I mean, I'm not funny car zoomies, but they're zoomy open headers. But still, that's pretty awesome. Going back to like the mid 2000s of Monster Jam, and Gas Monkey Garage is rocking those headers.
Yeah, I was wanting to put zoomies on, and that's right when everyone was going to mufflers, and the company was like, absolutely not. The digger trucks are the only one to run zoomies. And I said, well, I got to put something different on it. And we were going to put straight pipes on it like Mintz's. Like, well, no, Mintz's got those. So those pipes that we had on it the first 2 years were actually a set of Gravedigger zoomies that I had cut apart and changed. And they were what they got S pipes, but I had to make them a different set because of the way the chassis was, because the chassis was a in-house Carolina chassis. It wasn't a CRD. So the headers didn't fit. We changed them all around. By the time I got done making them, they were the same exact length as a Gravedigger Zoomie, but they were facing the ground. So they had their own sound. And I remember the first time I made a pass in Las Vegas at World Finals for practice, Richard Midget, the motor guy, I don't think I was back to my pit stall, and you could see this guy walking towards me just pissed. And I seen him. I was like, oh, man, Richard's mad. He come walking up there, and he pops his head in the cab. He says, how many RPMs were you turning? And I said, I don't know. I think I shifted about 7,800 or something. And he laughed, and he's like, man, that thing sounded like a pro mod taking off down the track. He says, that thing is so loud. And I'm like, oh, yeah, it's way louder than a Gravedigger truck because they're facing the ground. And he's like, that thing sounded like it was going 10,000 RPMs. And I said, I don't think it'll do that. But he was pretty cool. Even with changing the headers, people didn't know that it took me about 3 or 4 days with talking to the engine department to figure out, because you have to have so much back pressure in the pipes. And they were worried about the bends in it, and you just look at them, oh, they're cool looking. Well, there's more science to that than what it takes. I had to measure all the tubes out, and the tubes had to be the same length. I mean, it was a lot. There was a lot going on to it. You'd just been like, oh, I want a cool set of pipes. Like, no, it wasn't that easy.
Right. And the cool thing about one thing when I joined you and your team is it seemed like that vehicle was a lot of the developmental, a lot of parts that you guys wanted to test the waters with pretty much went to you to see if it worked or not worked. And how was that a little bit of pressure for you, or how was that being I guess the gopher? I don't know how to say gopher. Yeah.
Yeah. We were like what we call the test monkey. So we're Gas Monkey Garage, we're the test monkey. So no, I actually came to him and asked him if I could try some stuff. Carl Van Horn, love him to death. He was always really cool about that stuff. And I said, hey, let me try it on my truck because I can get the feedback for it. I know Lindsay can take care of it. If it doesn't work, we can swap it out. I'll never put something on there that I couldn't change in a hurry. And he says, you know what, if it's going to be for the better of the entire fleet of every Monster Jam truck, why don't you try it? So I got with Josh Garcia and I got with Cody Saucier, and we tried the bump stop springs. And Cole and Bernard had tried them before, but they just didn't have them hooked up where they stayed in one spot. They were kind of bounced all over the place. So we tried some different things with the bump stops. We tried some different things with rams. Some stuff with steering. Once I got the steering figured out, then we tried some different things with steering. We tried some different things with cooling. Most of it all pretty worked. It all worked out pretty good. The bump stops I used to run on my truck, they're running them on trucks now. So there was a lot of things that we tried just for the better of the show. Something as simple as changing a rear steer and a solenoid. We moved some stuff around where you could just change that part and not have to take 2 or 4 parts off. So I always thought about it like, man, if we have to work on this, it takes 10 minutes to change this out. We might miss wheelies. We might miss something. if we can change this around where it's only going to take us a couple minutes to do it, maybe we can be faster at it and we won't miss anything. So a lot of stuff got changed over on the trucks when we got done with it. A lot of guys were running the same thing I did, but I did about a year of testing of a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff people don't even realize we were testing, we were doing it. But other than when we had the steering problems, the truck always did what it needed to do, and it always made every element. We never missed an element the entire time I drove that truck.
Right. You know, it's what did you always say? We may not win it, but we'll be there. We'll be selling T-shirts, or we'll be the one getting talked about. I don't know. You always said that in the interviews.
Yeah, I always said, you know, we might not win them all, but I guarantee they're going to talk about us when they leave here. So
yeah,
you always got to make sure we have a good time.
Right. Andrew Harris said hi, by the way. If you have any stories about awesome Andrew.
Love Andrew. Andrew's my buddy. That's one of the biggest Gas Monkey fan, Gravedigger, Max D, whatever fans. But if I'm in town, he's got the hat on. So yeah.
I was watching a video, which was pretty cool. But it was on my timeline when you and Lindsay. But tell about the story about when you guys got him a driving suit, because that video was the video that I saw on Facebook that was on my timeline that I liked, and I remember him the video and how awesome he felt, and I thought that'd be a pretty cool story to tell.
Yeah. So a lot of people that don't know Little Drew, he's got a few medical problems, and he gets skin cancer dots and stuff like that. But the kid will breathe, eat, and sleep monster. He always want to be around. He always wants to be outside. So if you ever see him, walking on the pit, he's got enough sunscreen on to be a crazy clown because he's solid white his whole entire body, and it has to be that way, you know. So I talked to his mom, and he always gets helmets from Tom, and he was getting stuff and getting crew shirts, but I mean, he'd have clothes on, he couldn't move, and at the shows he's got to keep switching his shirts all the time. So I come up with this idea, and I talked to his mom about it, and I said, hey, what if I get him a driving suit? I know he's small. I mean, I think he's like 22 or 23 now, but I'm like, he's little. I said, I can take care of that. I got some friends in the industry that might take care of something. I'm like, I got an idea. And she's just like, oh, you don't need to do all that. And I said, you know, this is from all of us, the bottom of our heart doing it. I said, it's not going to cost you nothing. Don't worry about it. So I actually called Michael Harper. I called my guys at Simpson. And at the time, they didn't have a lot of karting suits because the World Karting Championships or something was going on. I talked to Michael Harper, and he says, hey, give me a minute. So he called a friend of his that has a fire suit company, and I got Drew's size, and then I sent it to 6B, and they put all the logos on. So I said, hey, put Max D on it, put a Gravedigger, put all these trucks, his absolute favorites, and put them all on the back of this thing so he ain't going to wear his crew shirts all the time. So we did the show in San Diego. We had the fire suit shipped in, and it came out awesome. You know, we did it blue, so it wasn't like, oh, it's green for Gravedigger. No, we just did it a neutral color. Then we said, hey, man, you got to come to the trailer work too. And so Drew would always come over and hang out with us. He knew where the store was in the trailer, whatever. He thought he'd just come to get a snack. And we gave him the fire suit. And that was probably one of the coolest days, just to see the reaction on that little kid's face, that all of us, I mean, me and Alex Blackwell, Howie, all of us that were there got to see him grab this fire suit. Loves this thing. And I helped him put it on. Anytime I was in the trailer getting ready, we had to put his fire suit on because he'd get ready. And every show he wears it. I still think he wears it now, and I know it's getting too small on him. I'm going to have to make a call and get him another one. But, yeah, we got him a fire suit just so that we didn't have to worry about his cancer because we wanted to come see us.
He always messages me on Snapchat shows me a freestyle run that he runs. I guess now he has a virtual monster truck set up on ROR, so now he can drive. He has a boombox player right next to him, so whatever truck. So if it's Gas Monkey, you're here fueled by Metallica. If it's Max D, he'll hear Dope Ride, or Gravedigger's Bad to the Bone. He has the song ready up, and then he drives around. There was a few videos he sent me with him wearing the helmet in his driving suit, and then he's driving doing the monster trucks, and his helmet keeps on popping up, and he has to stop it and then keep on driving. And
he's a real monster truck driver then, because that's what happens in the trucks.
And he just it just shows it. He's that whole setup's pretty cool. And we
I actually painted the helmets for him. So I had some old helmets that we painted. We actually painted a baseball helmet because he plays baseball, a Max D baseball helmet. And then I painted his own driving helmet that's got his name on it with this crazy, almost like zombie apocalypse flame crazy thing, but it's his own deal. That's Drew's helmet. So Drew actually, he might not ever get to drive a truck, but he rides in them when he can. He's probably the best one I've ever seen on a computer because nobody does the theme music and drives down with their finger out the whole thing. I mean, he's got it down. He knows.
So we got a couple fan questions for you here, BJ, and one of them from Jake Lennon said, "What was the worst experience working for either?" He just used examples. What was your worst experience? I guess he was wondering working for Bill Payne, Schaefer, or Feld, or anyone. I guess your worst experience.
I wouldn't say it. There was never like a real bad experience with the owners of the team. Like the one thing I always say with everybody, no one ever treated me like an employee. If I said, "Hey, I want to run the tires backwards because we're on asphalt," I could do it. If they wanted to try to run the shocks on the bus stops, they didn't care. They're like, "If you can, you can do it." Now, I will say that we've had some really bad experience with promoters, and that was usually when I worked for Paul. And there was a few promoters that didn't pay when they were supposed to pay, and they had to pay us to be there. And there were some guys that, well, we didn't sell enough tickets. And the bad part is this still goes on today. This still happens at monster truck shows now. And it's like, well, we were trying to get a lot of merchandise to pay you guys, and we'll catch you next week. Well, even though Paul was a big operation and had 12 trucks or whatever, we still had to get paid because that was our paycheck. And so I had to put fuel in the rig and we had to go to the next show. So I would say that Larry Swim and I know I'd say that there was a few promoters that didn't leave the parking lot until we got paid. And there was a few times that there was cops involved, and it was bad because we came to do a show for all the fans and the people that paid all the money to come see it. And then the guys just trying to run out the back door with the money. And that might happen with some people. It didn't happen with me.
Right. Another one was, maybe you heard of this guy, Brian Wright, Mr. Hook. He said,
"Be right." Oh, Be Right himself.
He said, "What was your favorite bar?"
Any bar that Brian Wright was not in. I love partying with him, guys. I mean, we were all adults. We could do what we wanted to. But if you were going out with the Sims boys and Brian Wright, and usually Cliff was involved, it was going to be bad. And if Brian wants to sit here and ask me what the favorite bar is, I have a little story about Brian because he couldn't put a tire back on his truck and he had to go sleep in a semi. So there's been a few. There's been a lot actually with that guy over the years.
And then another one, Frank Graham. I call him Frank from New York, but he said, "What's your favorite outside speedway track?"
Oh, it used to be Salt Lake City when Rocky Mountain Raceway was an asphalt figure 8. That was probably the wildest thing that you've ever done in a truck because you're doing speeds on the asphalt that you should not have been doing. I actually had a set of buff tires that we would take there just because I didn't want to rid of my good cleats when I drove barefoot. The one year I won it. I won the whole thing there. And Ash, you made you come back shaking. Like you'd hold the steering wheel so tight when you get back, your arms, your forearms. But that one was a cool one. I only got to do West Leb once, and that was cool. That was a pretty cool track. That was cool, just pin her to the floor and hang on and let Jesus take the wheel type thing. But it was cool.
How about Chico?
Chico was fun, but when I did it, it rained about 10 inches and turned into a mud fest. And when you drive California Kid, there's a hatch on the top, and that's the only way you can get in and out. And there's no hatch on it when we ran in the rain because you'd be able to get out of the thing. And when you're looking through a 10-inch window and you're covered in mud, Chico's cool because it's a big track. It's a fun track. But the whole time I was there, I hated it because all we did was eat mud for 3 shows.
My mom said, "Say hi to Lindsay for me." So.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know if she's watching because she's some monster truck stories.
she's like, I tagged her on Facebook and she said, no, thanks. And I was like, no. I was just trying to spread the love, get more people in. She's like, no, I'm out. And I'm like, okay, Lindsay. So now,
I have a question for
oh,
you.
Jesus.
Why is that microphone bigger than your head?
That's a good question. Because it's a Blue Yeti. And I was reading online how good microphones were, and they said this is one of the best ones for, podcasting and stuff like that. So I went ahead and got it, and now I have like the camera and the thing's bigger than me. I mean, I can hide right now and look, it is there. Hi, Lindsay.
Lindsay and Riker.
How's everything going, Lindsay?
He wants to know everything's going.
Good. I can't hear you.
Yeah, I got my AirPods in. Everything's going really good. She's selling real estate. A lot of real estate she's selling right now. So if anybody wants to buy a house in the Tampa Bay area, let her know. But no, it's good. It's actually nice being home, not racing constantly. And I got this one now. And she's into everything, and she's not even crawling yet. So, you're ripping my ear off. All right, they just want to say hi.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, that's awesome. And how's the house going too? I know you just built a new indoor the outdoor patio that we always hung out is now indoor now, right?
Yeah, so between my house and the pool is about 30 feet. Well, about 35 feet. And every time we have pool parties, it's so hot out there. I mean, we live in Florida. It's 150,000 degrees sometimes in the summertime. We have pool parties. So I said, hey, let's just do an overhang. I built a bar on the overhang. I built a bar on the back patio a couple years ago. I said, man, let's just do a cover on here. So Lindsay goes, all right. And it started out, we were going to do a 12-foot out, 24 long. And that way we'd take her to the door or whatever. And with having the baby, she could play out there. And I'm like, well, if we're going to do that, let's just go a little bit further down. Well, if we're going to do that, let's go a little bit further out. Well, when I got done with it, a buddy of mine, me and Tim, thank God I have Tim. Tim the Toolman Taylor. Him and I built that thing in 14 days, and it's 1,550 square feet, and it's completely screened in. So now we have about 8 feet between, a little less than 8 feet between the pool and the patio area. And it's nice now. You can sit out there with the mosquitoes, don't bother you, and you always get lizards in there, but that's just Florida. But it's nice. It worked out really good. Now everything's completely covered, and anybody that comes and visits, we can just hang out in there. And even when the sun goes down, you're not running for your life, because if when you stayed here, it was sun goes down, you run for the house. And then everything's been going good, buying a lot of stuff for the shop. And then I've recently started tattooing more. And I used to do a tattoo shop when I lived in Idaho, and I still did off and on. That's now I have a little tattoo studio inside the house, but I recently purchased, actually, or maybe today, I don't know what days anymore. I'm having a building built that we can put here on the property, which is for tattoos only. So I actually have a legitimate just tattoo shop on my property. So if you ever come this way, you can get a crush this tattoo or whatever you want to get.
I'm good.
But yeah, I'm gonna start tattooing on the side, not full time, but I'm gonna do a lot more here.
I haven't picked a tattoo yet because I don't want to get one that I'm confirming and then I regret, and then that's just gonna add on more and more and more and more and more and more and more. Like
the panda bear I drew you.
Yeah, I'm waiting on that one, but I got. I still wear that panda T-shirt Lindsay made. I still like that panda T-shirt.
You're still her panda. She started calling you Panda, and that's your name from now on.
Yeah, I mean, everyone calls me that now. It's just not. You guys started it, and it still follows me. I even have now a little decal on the back of my Ram truck has a little panda bear on it, and so I have a story to tell you that happened to me a couple months ago. I hang out with Lonnie and Jason Chodris. I did some RC racing with those guys. And I go to this Mexican restaurant called The Barn. It's the whitest Mexican restaurant I've ever been to. Near Sullivan, Missouri. I was like, this is a Mexican restaurant. It's not, I don't even seen one Spanish person in there, but I guess so. So I'm talking to the waitress. I ordered this food, it's a chicken case, not like one of the Spanish meals where it's like, well, I think a chicken with queso on top of it and a side of rice. And I was like, I like to have an extra side of rice. And she was like, okay. I guess she got confused between me asking extra to I was like just 1, 2, and that's it. She got confused with 3. She gave me 4 plates of extra rice. 4 plates of extra rice, and I had
You probably look real cute in there eating rice the way you look.
I know, with my eyes all squinted and everything like that. And then I had a buddy of mine named Isaac. He's more Asian than I am, and he was going around people's tables asking for food. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I brought home a doggy plate of rice. No more chicken, but it was just kind of ironic how I just got 4 plates of rice instead of everything else. But
Kung Fu Panda, man. Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah. Panda Express, But outside speaking about food, you have been a pretty good grill cook or a cook in general. And what got you the passion and love also for cooking?
Living on my own, I got tired of eating McDonald's and Burger King and everything else we were doing. So anytime we were back at the shops, we always had grills there. So I was just like, I'm going to grill this. And I'm telling you right now, when we first started, it wasn't that good. But I'm learning, like anything else, just trying different things. And then I grew up in California, so they grill everything out there. And we started getting a lot of, if you know, the tri-tip is, we started getting a lot of smoking them and grilling them. And people that never had it, they try it. And they're like, oh my God, it's amazing. But it's just a West Coast thing. But, it just, like anything else, if you want to get better at it, you just kind of like do research on it, kind of like school yourself on it. And, you can't really screw it up. It's food. Let's try this. I'm like, oh, let's try this. Let's try this. And I did remember that I don't send you to the store because you come back with like 60 freaking drumsticks and you want to put them all on the grill and there's 5 of us there, So, we have drumsticks for like 2 weeks.
Because they were on sale. Because Winn-Dixie has everything on sale. Meat department wise.
Buy one, get one.
Buy one, get one.
Buy one, get one.
And those drumsticks were buy one, get one. And I sometimes always went over dramatic, and I went not one, but like I bought buy one, get one twice, times 2. And there were drumsticks. Chuck, okay, I'm going to get this straight. Mr. Chuck Board has this way of telling me of getting stuff, and I get it, and I turn around, and the stuff that he promised me that he would get, he has nothing in his hands whatsoever on getting it. And I'm like looking at him like, where's the stuff that you promised? You got me covered. And I was like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
And
we have enough. It's all good. We have enough.
Oh, man. Yeah, but still, Winn-Dixie, it's better than Publix. I'll put that in. Publix is just too expensive. They do make some good hoagies, though.
They don't have one buy one, get one. That's why.
Yeah, it's buy one, get one all the way in Winn-Dixie. I'll tell you that much. I remember what the enchiladas, those are some good stuff you made.
Yeah.
Family night, enchiladas.
Family night, the rule is no phones at the table, and you got to clean your plate. Cheech.
Yeah.
You got in trouble a couple times because you want to play video games with it on volume like 40. Sound like a Formula 1 car running through my house.
Yeah, F1 racing. If you blast that, sounds like a bunch of reed whackers. Got too into that, and then the fun. Austin Spence and Austin Tweedy was telling me one time in the podcast that they started playing Rock Band. It's the same Rock Band that I gave you guys. I think.
Still have it. I still have it now. Still good.
Right. And freaking Chuck took the PlayStation. Don't even know where that's at no more. Chuck.
No, we have
and,
it set up now. We got it taken care of. We actually played it not too long ago. It's
Oh,
not as good
really?
as not having you on the drums and Lindsay singing and the rest of us playing. So the band's
Remember,
not what it used to be.
I remember the one time got you the idea to make a microphone stand because I had to put the microphone through my shirt while drumming.
Still
Yeah.
have it. We
You
still
still have it?
Yeah, still have all that stuff. Yeah.
It's even worse when you have the liquid courage in your system. I can't even see what was going on, but I'm trying to drum that drum set. It was difficult. Then you add Dustin Brown and Carl Van Horn to the mix, and it just became a riot. Oh my
There was
gosh!
some good stuff there for a while.
Right. I don't even own a game system no more. I think the last one is I got the PlayStation 5 or something. It's just sitting in the living room.
You can't afford it. You've got 900 RC cars.
I love them. It's an addiction. I know it's a good addiction, but I try my best on. I came a long way. I still have that Rambo body that you made. That the Rambo body is still fresh, even though I abuse it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's still fresh. The Rambo. This guy right here, Mr. Bj Johsnon, made my Rambo truck, which was pretty freaking cool. Now I got a leafer chassis for it now, so it's gonna be a full-fledged leafer truck. I cut the hood, and I bought these J concept pipes. Now it comes out of the pipe and stuff like that. So now the truck looks more detailed than it is before. But
now you're gonna crash it.
Huh?
Now you'll crash it.
Probably. I got that very nice Virginia Giant, and I already rolled it over twice. My luck.
Horrible.
Nah, it is. It is what it is. But it's. But we got a few more questions here. Mike Hedman was asking, what was your favorite truck either to watch or drive?
My favorite one to drive would be the California Kid. That one was fun because you could do whatever you wanted to in it. And it was very forgiving. You could do some dumb stuff in that truck, and it would always somehow land on its wheels because all it was all tires. So that would be my favorite. My favorite truck to actually watch was Adam Anderson's Taz, which became the Legend, when he had the coilovers on it. That truck worked. I did a few shows with him when I was crewing for Candace and just kind of watch how the suspension worked and the shocks and stuff. The only reason they got rid of the coils because the truck was so tall. They made it really top heavy. But the stuff that truck could do was always awesome to sit there and watch, and how Adam drove it. And he knew exactly what it was like. I sat and talked to him about it one time because we were talking about going coilovers on the Gas Monkey truck. And he says, man, if you hit a ramp wide open in a nitrogen truck, that's one thing. You hit a ramp wide open with a coilover truck, it launches you even further. And Adam always says, I can't jump as high as I used to because I don't have the springs anymore. But that one was a cool truck. Cool deal they had going there for a while.
Got Brandon Filsdorf. He said, I bet the yard is a lot nicer also without me living in the backyard with my camper.
Yeah, so we when we all got sent down here to Florida to work for Monsham, Lindsay and I were able to get a house and whatever. And then we always had a few people that couldn't get a house, or rent was too expensive or something like that. It's her and I then. So we've had a lot of people stay with us a month. We had people like Dustin Brown stay with us a month while his house taken care of before his whole family came down. So Dustin Brown, Scott Phillips, Chuck, Cheech, Mike Osborne, a lot of the guys, all you guys got to stay with us. We had a blast. I mean, it was like a frat house there for a while, but Brandon had some problems and needed some help. And I told him he could stay here in the house, and he didn't want to do that. And that's just how Brandon is. But Brandon says, hey, man, if I could, I know you got property. If I buy a camp trailer, can I put it on there? And I said, yeah. So I went and paid for all the electrical to have an RV hookup for him. And he stayed with us for a while, and mobile home estates back there. He had his old camp trailer back there, but it worked out good because Brandon worked in the shop and built his mud truck out of my shop, and I didn't care. It's better for him to do it in my shop than it was to do it out in the middle of the backyard where he was living. So, yeah, It was always fun having all you guys here.
Right, right. It was always a good time, and I always try to tell the story on how I, uh, you know, kind of seal the deal, and you guys asking me to live with you guys was when I was with Woos in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and you guys are getting ready to do your monster getting ready. What was it for racing? You guys were all lined up. It was you, Candace, I think Randy, Gary, then Chad, and I forget who else was at that show, but um, Woos kind of gave me the reins to work on the truck and stuff like that, and I thought I thought I got it handled, and he was. I was like two steps ahead of Woos, but Woos wasn't that far away to helping me out when I was in trouble, and I got the sway. The truck was kind of leaning, and I was like, okay, I'll crank the sway bars and stuff like that and center it out. So I start doing that center, trying to get everything. It starts, changing and everything, and I come around and I just, look at, if you know the Soldier Fortune, the fan Soldier Fortune truck, it kind of looks like a Warhog from like Halo and stuff. So there's like an easy bar to grab on, or trying to hang down, and to let people know I'm like 5'5" and I weigh like 190. So Woos, on the other hand, is like the size of Bam Bam Bigelow. So I go around and I'm getting ready. I'm like, yeah, I was like, okay, I'll use my weight to go down. I'm like, I'm trying, and it all moves down in one. I was like, yes, I finally got it. And I look straight up in the air, and there's Woos grabbing on the very top to bring him down. And I was like, dang it, I thought I got it. And somehow or some way, you guys were laughing your ass off in like every single truck because of.
Well, what's funny is all of us sitting in the pit, so even though we have our helmets on, we can all yell at each other and talk. And so that we seen you just thrashing and you were working on it, and we all knew you were your first time crew chiefing and whatever. And so we're like, man, he's got it, You were pulling and pulling. I mean, if you guys could have seen how hard he was straining to try to get this truck straightened up, and Woos just being Woos, he just reached over the top of him and pulled it down. And when he did, you were already excited. You're like, yes, yeah, I got it. And when you looked up and saw it was Woos, it like bursted your bubble, and you just and just pouted. Every driver, like I had to go out because that was the next one in line. I had tears in my eyes from laughing driving. I mean, I thought I was going to hit the building going up so hard because you went from hero to zero so fast it wasn't even funny. And I even told Luce later, I said, man, you should have just played that victory. And he goes, I know I should have went to the other side. I said, yeah, you didn't have to do it over the top of him. But yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's always a good time and a learning experience. Like there was one time when I was with you with Gas Monkey, we were in Syracuse, New York, and it was just, you had one of those brain fart moments where you came around, you hit the jammer in a weird angle, and the truck just dumped on you. You didn't have a chance to save it. The truck just went, and you're in the headset, and you're talking to me, you're like, my bad, I'm sorry. And they had the video camera on me, and I'm like, we're having a conversation, and like this person on YouTube's like saying, man, they're having a really heated argument. And it was not even a heated argument or anything. It was just you saying, hey, man, I'm sorry. And I'm like, it is what it is. Let's move on. It was just some of the conversations. It was always a good time because you're always learning about stuff in general and how the track was. Because a lot of times when you're driving, doing your intros, you're pulled in. So you don't see really anything that's going on. So I have to try to give you feedback on what's going on and stuff. And then, unlike some of the drivers, I've learned about having feedback from you because, a lot of times you came around, you said, hey man, I have something wrong with the truck and it's over here on the right, like left rear corner of the truck. Check it out. And then I give you feedback saying, yeah, something's broken, I one thing I always thought learning from you was, there's moments in time where, you get in the moment, you get a little bit excited. And one thing I learned about you is learned about how to take that away and calm down and relax. It's just a monster truck, and I like I said, I learned a lot from you. And that was one key that I have learned to this day still with Hall Brothers is just a monster truck. We'll get it down. It's just throw away the excitement, I guess.
Once I got you to calm down and tell me what you were doing, you were great at it. Because I also remember
right.
a show as I came to you and I said, hey, nobody can get a wheel out here, and I know I can get one. So when I ride this wheel, you got to tell me where to stop. And you're like, I got it. And I said, okay, man, you got to tell me because I'm going to ride this thing as long as I can. And you're like, okay, I got it. And so I came around off the race lane and stuck the wheelie bar in the ground and was riding. And I'm like, where is he at? Like, I don't hear him. So when I slammed on the brakes, I can't remember. I think it was Cody was in front of me. And I was so close to him, I think I could smell what he had for lunch on his breath. And I looked up in the stands and all they see is this.
Yeah, that was my bad.
And I'm like, hey, dude, what are you doing? Oh, hey, go ahead and back up. I said, you were supposed to tell me to stop. Oh, yeah, I know. I forgot. Go do it again. So the second time I went and did it, I ride, and I'm waiting, and I'm like, where the hell is he at?
No, I did tell you to stop.
Oh, you said stop. So when I stopped, I was way short from where I needed to be. And then you're like, that was great. And I was like, all right, when I get back to the pits, come down here because I'm going to chew your ass when you get there.
Well, I learned, so that's a learning
You
experience.
did learn. You learned a lot from Lindsay. You learned a lot from everybody. You were like a sponge. You were taking it all in, and it was working. So, you went from being our little super fan that not a lot of people trusted you. Man, I said I trust him. He can go with me. And then once you started learning everything, I never questioned it. That's when I came up and you say, "Hey, I need to do this." I was like, "Okay, cool, do it. I trust you." Look at you now, Mister Ma'am, Mr. Hall Brothers.
Yeah, I just told Tim, talking to Tim, and I've been with that team for 3 years, so that's pretty cool. It's the longest tenure I've been to. Still doing it though, but one thing I wanted to talk about too was like we had our own little mini, I guess, Monster Jam University at the Florida shop. You put together a training truck, and which was I think was the old Dragon. But anyway, we did transmission challenges, corners. Like you would randomly come. Like I remember, you would randomly just come to me and say, "Hey, come over." Like I'm doing something else. Like my hands are like dirty. He's like, "Just come over, okay?" Corner now, and you start grabbing stuff and changing the corners and stuff like that, and it just was random. It was just random out of the blue because the one thing you told us is it can randomly break out of the blue in general. So what scenario are you gonna put yourself into when out of nowhere, boom, a corner, like you broke an outer axle corner, like so even you're like it was just crazy. Like you could just pick someone like maybe washing tires over there in the yard. You just come on, and before you know it, you grab like 5 of us, and you're like maybe Jeff did it. We knew it was a transmission because that's all he loved was transmission stuff. But when you did it the first time, we're like, what 5 of us are doing, like me, Matt, Lauren and Cody, and I don't know where you say transmission's out. Start, getting the transmission and you time us. And I thought that was a pretty cool thing. I didn't know. I don't know if it continued on, but I thought that was a really good teaching tool. I thought that.
Yeah, I was always taught the more you learn, the better you're going to be. Even when Craig Christensen said, "You'll never drive one of my trucks unless you can work on it." He says because anybody that's a good driver is going to be a mechanic first. So I always stuck with that. And then when I got down to Monster Jam, it's nothing but time. So when I got with Carl and Mark Hansen and everybody, and I said, "Hey, why don't we just take an old truck and teach these guys?" So it worked out, and that's how we kind of like started our little classes and whatever. And and we used to play games, and I used to tell them, "I'm not going to make you do something I won't do." And, we're doing corners. There was only 3 of us. So I would jump in, and I'd be the number 4. So we played the push-up game sometimes. I would make deals with people. I'm like, "Hey, if I ask you what the firing order is on a big block Chevy and you don't know it, you're going to do push-ups." Because it was wrote on the wall for like the 3 days you guys were in class. No one ever asked me about it. So it was just something that I knew later on would be good for everybody because you got to make the show.
1-843-6572.
Right. God, I'm so proud of you. You come so far. You come so far. I'm so proud of you. But no, it was always a thing, that people pay their money to come see a show, and there was way too many shows when I first started out. We're like, well, I got a broken axle, I guess I'll just park it for the night. I'm like, well, that's not fair to the little kids that want to come see your truck, and they're like, I don't want to work on that tonight. So it always worked out for everybody. Um, it always was just, if you could learn it, you could change it really quick. You won't miss an element of the show. Everybody wants to be out there. So I was always proud of all you guys who did that. If you go through the class and listen and do it, and then when I would randomly get you guys, you go over and do it without even thinking about it, that's what I wanted. I didn't want you guys to be like, oh man, what do I need to do? No, you guys would just grab wrenches and go. And that was perfect.
I also like that electrical board that you made.
Yeah, RL, Crabby Old Pirate RL is when I made that, was for the museum at the time. And then we redid the whole electrical board so it was more like our up-to-date trucks with a shifter and accumulators and all this stuff on it. So anytime that I flipped one on, I'm like, hey, look, this is working. Now it's not. I had it all rigged so that I could mess it up all the time, and then you guys could always fix it. But it was cool. They still use it now. I mean, when we all left Feld, it was still there, and they were still doing training classes and stuff. But Jeff Sin did a lot of it. He started doing a lot of the training, and he did a great job at it.
So now, kind of towards the end of you being with Feld, they did the transition towards fuel injection system, the FTI. I mean, the electric EFI. Set up on those trucks, and also you kind of were building a lot of monster trucks, kind of towards like the last few years. That got to be some crazy times.
Yeah, so Cody Saucier was building a lot of trucks, but he was doing it by himself. When Jeff could help him, he would. But I started helping Cody out right about the time we were building Gas Monkey. And when I came back, Cody had to go and switch roles and was going to go into shocks or whatever, and they had no one to build trucks. So I sat down with him and I said, hey, why don't you just let me build them? I've got a crew, so I've got a crew chief that Anthony can work on the truck, and I'll just build these new ones. So we actually had a team of guys. Doug White, which still works there. He works on Kristen's Gravedigger. He built a lot of trucks with me. We were building a truck in like 15 days. So the fab guys would build it. It would go to Buffalo Avenue Powder Coating here in Tampa with Gene Lasker, and he would come bring it back to us, and we put it together. And it was 14, 15 days to build a truck. I couldn't tell you how many trucks. I know we built at least 20 or 30 in a couple years. But a lot of them, people were like, oh, man, you guys are building all these trucks. What are you guys doing with all of them? Well, like, no. A lot of trucks we were retiring because they were so tore up that we needed to change the frames and everything out on them. So it was pretty wild. We had a lot of stuff going on at the shop at the time. So I got to plug my phone in because it's dying. We had a lot of stuff getting changed, a lot of stuff being reworked. And then the motor department was doing a lot of electronic fuel injection, trying to make the trucks run better and have the emissions lower and all this other stuff. And Alex Blackwell was working a lot with Richard. They were running stuff on the dynos all the time. Ryan Anderson actually had it on his truck for a little while, doing testing with it. We tested some trucks out with it. And then finally they came to us to go, hey, this thing's a go. We need to put all these kits on. And it was like 30 kits we put on. It would take about 8 hours to put a kit on. And we run down to the wire of not having all the arena trucks done, those were the ones that ran indoors and had the emission problems. So we pulled 39-hour day or a 40-hour day without no sleep and knocked all the trucks out, loaded them in the trailers, and they left. And we came home with sleep for a couple days. But it was wild. It was cool. Everything was documented as far as like measurements and paperwork trail a mile long. But someone could say, oh, I need this hose. And I'd be like, well, take this fitting and it's this long. This is what you crimp that. I'm like, I had it down where I knew exactly what I needed to do. And because every truck I was trying to make them more identical than having one spare part in the trailer versus having 2 or 3 spare parts in the trailer.
Now you also, outside of that too, you had a lot in hand with those ride trucks that you guys did over for like the Cedar Lake Company and all on the amusement park deal. How did that come to fruition? And now you were talking about how you got a lot of the race trucks on Pat. Was it a different twist with the ride truck, creating a ride truck compared to the race truck?
Yeah, so it was brought to my attention that we need to build a ride truck for an amusement park, and it started as one, but they wanted seats facing forward. They wanted as close as we could get it to a race truck. So it took me a week of figuring it out and measuring it out and trying to figure all this stuff out. And in the meantime, we're still building race trucks. So Doug and Anthony and all them guys were still building race trucks, and I have all this stuff laid out on the floor. So I figured out how to build, were they 12 seaters or whatever, 11 seaters, whatever them big old things were. I figured out how to build them on an exact race chassis. So I actually flew to California, met with CRD, talked to Tim Carroll about it a little bit, came back. We had multiple meetings over it. And he could bend us all the tubing, but could not put the chassis together in the time that we needed. So a semi showed up. And in the meantime, it went from one ride truck to 2 ride trucks. And all the tubing showed up bent. It was ready to go. But the fab department, Tanner and Squirt and Corey and myself, welded on them trucks and built them from the ground up from nothing. So once they were done, they went to powder coat. We were trying to fit bodies at the time. And the Gravedigger, the Megalodon body was actually really easy. The Star Creations did all that stuff. That one actually turned out really well, and it wasn't that bad. The Gravedigger truck was a different story because the Gravedigger ride truck is an inch narrower than what the inside of a race trailer is. And we had to get both trucks in one trailer. So we didn't have a lot of time to test them. We had different axle setups on them. We had 4-wheel disc brakes on them. We had a different shock setup, but they still were on a race chassis. So a lot of people, if you've never seen them, the seats in the back, I designed them where they pivot like an office chair so we could get disabled people in there or handicap accessible so that we could spin the seat around and put them in there and spin the seats back and lock them. So all that was being built on top of the amusement park rules, on top of Monster Jam safety rules. So I was dealing with 3 or 4 different safety aspects at the same time, building them with onboard fire suppression systems and all this other stuff that met guidelines for both parties. And we got done, and I actually went to Cedar Point. It was for Cedar Point Amusements. And I stayed a week up there doing testing. We had special rims built that didn't work out the way we wanted them to because we wanted them wider and lower to the ground. The shocks weren't working the way they were. So the very first time when all the Cedar Point original crew, they worked on them trucks all night long. Those trucks would run all day. And when they got parked at night, there was a night crew that would literally work there all night long on them. And it wasn't, sorry about that. It wasn't trucks falling apart. It was the trucks. We were trying to make the trucks better. We were changing things. I mean, the brakes were working the way we wanted them to, but we had a small issue with them as far as like, I wouldn't say brake fade, but they were just kind of hard to push down, but it worked great. We did testing in the parking lot with them, speed tests and speed runs and all this other stuff, and everything passed, but we wanted to make it better. So I got up one morning, drove to Canada, went to Ramature's shop that actually builds mega trucks and uses the same axles we did, and he laser cut me some stuff out, and I drove back. So I mean, we constantly worked on them for the first month they were there, and they never broke down. We never had a really issue with them. We had one lose a motor. They were all LS motors. Alex Blackwell helped me put LS motors and stuff in them, but just a motor issue that there was nothing we could do about it. Switched the motor out in the middle of the night, and the truck was ready to go for the next day. So all the first crew, they worked their tails off. And a lot of people don't know Tony Oakes with Black Ops was actually the one that was in charge of all that up there. So he was the boss, making sure that the guys were there on time, the ride trucks were running, but they pushed a lot of people through there. They pushed so many people in the ride trucks, and we had it down where the tracks were specially designed so that when one truck was running, the other one was being loaded. And by the time you got it loaded, the truck was back, and it was cool. They ran them at 3 different amusement parks before the COVID thing shut everything down. So now I want to say they're still sitting in trailers right now waiting to go again.
So when you were building those ride trucks, were there any help from the previous the other ones like Gravedigger 11 and the BKT? Did you mix those in, or these were completely different type of ride trucks?
Yeah, these were totally different. These were all seats face forward. They were short. You know, they was as short as the BKT truck, which that's an old E-spring race truck. These were full King shocks, full race chassis. I mean, You could almost put a blower motor in one and good shocks and good axles and go jump the thing. I mean, that's how sturdy the thing was built. I wouldn't put a doubt in it. I would jump that thing all day long. Just the shocks we had on, we didn't need 26 inches of travel, so we only ran 12, and there was a couple little things stuff like that, but they steered real nice. We actually put cooling systems in them so you could flip the fans on and blow cold air on stuff on you, but they were cool. I mean, they were as close as you can get to a race truck. If you sat in the first two front seats, you could touch the driver. I mean, that's how close you were to it. So the driver was a center seat. I mean, it was just a cool thing to be a part of, and to go from a piece of paper, from an idea to a piece of paper, to building them, welding them, watch them getting powder coated, and then back for us to put them together. That had never been done. So Alex Blackwell and I, and Doug White and Anthony helped a little bit, but they had to go back on the road. And Alex and I spent many nights in there too. We were just delirious on energy drinks and didn't know our names, but we knew how to turn a wrench and put something on. So it was cool. It was something we could always say that we did it.
So we have a fan here, Linda Johnson. Was asking about, were there sparkling Mountain Farm drumsticks?
Or is it Pepperidge Farms?
Probably. Springer Mountain Farms drumsticks.
That's my mom. That's my biggest fan. That's the wildest, craziest super fan you ever see in your life. If you ever seen her at a race, you didn't sit next to her because she would run down the rows of seats and chase me down the track and turn and come back. Like, I think she made more passes in Vegas than I did, chasing me in the grandstands. But no, everything with my mom has to be some Springer Farms chicken, whatever. And I'm sure you didn't buy that. So blame Cheech, Mom.
What me? I didn't have that. Whatever. But one question I always ask on this thing, on the podcast, is what was the coolest thing you ever crushed?
Running over the Hellcat would have been cool, but I didn't get to do that. I was injured at the time. We actually crushed a bunch of porta potties for a commercial. That was kind of cool when I worked Paul. I used to blast through motorhomes every single weekend, so that wasn't cool anymore. Probably, I will say this. So I did a thing, a car crush thing for a dealership in Daytona Beach, Florida, and they brought a limousine there. And the guy says, "Hey man, I want this limo smashed." Well, you don't think about it. You're like, "Oh, it's a limo. This thing will crush." Limos are specially built with extra bracing and stuff in the roof. And just put it this way, the dealership got one hell of a show because it was like iron wall and a K-rail, because I think I ripped the tailgate off and half the bedsides and everything else on a car crush in a parking lot. Thank God it was in a field. It was an old abandoned parking lot, so nobody was around. But yeah, limousines don't smash. If anybody wants to try that at a show, go ahead. I'll tell you right now that it's you better hang on.
Now, one question, kind of towards the end here. One story I wanted to know. There was once a Monster Jam event where you and Larry was at, but you weren't really there on television.
Yeah. There was a small event. Just put it this way. There was a small event about the same time Paul was having an issue with running Monster Jam events. And this was way before Feld, So just say that we were there, but we weren't there.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of politics involved when it gets down to all that stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah, I hear you. I was a little talking, and someone was mentioning about there was the two trucks and you were there, but you weren't there, stuff like that. But anyway, it's interesting to talk about. Pretty much, any more questions if anyone want to ask? Mostly people are asking about me and Rice. Let's see here. All right, your mom just corrected herself. Springer, LOL. So blame it on me. we were talking about. It was funny on the podcast too. On that we're gonna be with Austin. Your daughter Harley mentioned about the time I came. I came with a Corvette in your wedding, and I had and want to thank uh the extra points that I get. I didn't mean to, but uh, it was pretty cool, I guess. I because I already moved and tried to independently. Still am, but went to the dirt crew and quad group and stuff like that, and uh, went to the. I wanted a Dodge Charger, and they went to the Tampa airport. I landed, and out of nowhere, the lady's like, we don't have that anymore. Someone else has it, but if you pay $14 more, you can have a pick between a Corvette 2017 Corvette Stingray or a V6 convertible Mustang for the same price. And I would have been probably the dumbest person in the world in 2017 if I picked that Mustang.
I was glad that you picked a Corvette, because when we had to go take wedding photos, I told Cheech threw me the keys. It's like, here, take the vet. So I killed about 50% of the life of the tires of it out there on the road before I left. And that thing was moving. Like, we were flying to go where we had to get down to take pictures. But it was nice. I was glad that you got a Corvette. I think
cool,
there's still
though.
black marks out on the road.
Hey, I'm still around. But it was pretty cool though when we all hung out on that Friday night. Saw Elliot Miller and your friend. I brain farting. That guy was hilarious.
Oblivion.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was hilarious.
Yeah, Richard Jones, which is the famous Bolivian from Bolivia. Nobody really never knows his name. Yeah, it was good. We had our wedding here. We invited like 150 people, and I think 100 of them showed up. I mean, you have Jim Kohler here and Elliot Miller. I mean, it was Brad Allen. There were so many people here, and it was like a big family reunion, all the time. So hanging out and having a few beers and telling stories, it was pretty cool.
And you had the Norman Brothers as the parking lot crew.
Oh, yeah. Those guys parked 97 cars in my front yard. We have 2.5 acres here, and not a single car came to the back, but they had it down. And Lindsay was actually running late. Lindsay wasn't running late to the wedding. Everybody that was with her was running late to the wedding. So she drove herself here and come flying up in the front yard, slammed on the brakes, jumped out in a wedding dress. And then I think Philip went and parked the car. And I just remember right as the ceremony started, I looked up and they were walking towards me, and they still had their high-vis vests on because we made them vests that said Norman Brothers Parking. But, yeah, I love those guys. Those guys, I love them. I said, I got a job for you. And they're like, we got it. And we got it. They did. We had full-on parking lot.
You gave me the job, too. As soon as I pull up, you're like, you're going to be the ring bearer. You have to drive this RC. No pressure. But I was just going to be there to watch. Instead, I was in the wedding. And you don't know how many people have come up to me or messaged me asking me if I could do that for them at their weddings.
Yeah, charge them. Charge people.
I don't have time to.
Because we told him he got his life threatened that if he drove that RC car down and did a donut, threw dirt all over Lindsay, that she would kill him. And he drove the car down like he was supposed to. I pulled the rings off. I turned the car around, and he drove it back. He was being good. Mm-hmm. Now, the day before, we weren't being good, and we got in trouble. But during the wedding, it was perfect.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the day beforehand, you just throw the job at me. You're like, you're going to be driving this. And then people like, I was like, yeah, I wanted you at my wedding so you could drive that RC truck down there. And I was like, when did you were planning on telling me? About maybe a few months back. Oh, that ain't going to happen. And definitely with the job I'm with, that'd be hard for me to get out of a situation like that.
That could be your gig on the side, man. I'm the RC ring bearer.
Yeah, you do that. I get a fanny pack and I can just throw flowers and stuff like that.
Oh, please do that and send me a video of you with a fanny pack throwing flowers. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see right there.
My man, it's good chatting with you. Any social media people can follow you at?
I still have my Instagram page, and then I still have I still have my fan page on Facebook. I just kind of post a lot of stuff what I do now, my tattoo stuff, my fabricating stuff, some of the race car stuff we're building. But some people just message me and stuff on it, and I'll message you back. I check it every night or whatever. And if you're going to be in the Florida area, I'll have the tattoo shop up and going soon. You'll see that on the fan page or whatever. But just kind of living life. If you need a house, get a hold of my wife, and need a tattoo, and come see me.
Sounds like a done deal. Maybe you could put a package together. If you buy this house, you get a tattoo.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it was a great chatting with you, and it was a good time. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll get on here again. Maybe the next time we'll talk about some dirty stuff like what the industry is really like.
Oh, geez.
Or maybe I'll just save that for Harley and Austin show.
Yeah, probably do that. I'll just see, yeah, stuff like that. But yeah, hey, all this podcast is like talking around the water cooler. If you go back and listen to the episode of Mike Wine and how he feels about the higher ups of Feld, he let that cat out of the bag. So he'll tell you how he truly feels, and in a past episode you can hear him say what he felt about the higher ups. But it is what it is. We just talk around the water cooler, and just have a good time. I just never wanted my podcast to be like the Chris Farley interview from SNL when he talks to the singer from the Beatles. He's like, "Remember the one time you sang for the Beatles?" Yes, I do. That's cool. Like, I never wanted to do that. But once again, man, thank you so much for being on. It was, like I said, it was an awesome time.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Like I said, we'll do it again.
We'll do. So everyone, once again, thank you to Bj Johsnon. Thank you for High Octane Coffee, J Concepts, Back Channel Productions, 6B Apparel, also JB Scale Graphics, and Bradley Shaw Designs. Next week will be Austin Spence and Austin Tweedy from the Throttle Out Show. I did an episode with them last week, so I don't know when that's going to be coming in. But for the Repay Them the Favor, they'll be on my podcast next week. Until then, Brad will be back on next week also. So just remember that, guys. We're going to have the whole crew there, and we're going to be chatting up a storm about rumors and life and stuff like that. Tim, I can't pronounce his middle name. Bob says riding dirty racing. So they also
yeah, that's
nice. I also remember the Miller Lite lawnmower. And is that still around?
Yeah, it blew up. We got to put
man.
a motor in it. Yeah, that one's got to get a motor pretty soon.
When are you gonna start doing lawnmower racing?
So this summer, we're actually going to do lawnmower tug of wars. We did some a couple months ago at a friend's house, and that is the funnest, cheapest excitement that you could ever do at a party. So later this summer, we're going to have lawnmower tug of wars here. It's Tractors Gone Wild, and no telling what else we're going to do here. We always try to have a good time.
Make a tractor mud pit. I remember in West Virginia we had that. I had a Simplicity, a 91 Simplicity tractor. And my dad had one he cut grass with, but I had another one I got from a friend. And we always went tractor mud bogging. So
absolutely
didn't work out very well, but it is what it is. Anyway, once again, guys, thank you for being on here. Thank you for all the sponsors. Once again, thank you to Bj Johsnon. Also, guys, $100 for our crew shirts. Take a look at that stuff from 6B Apparel. So once again, guys, thank you so much for being on and watching. This will be also on iTunes and on Spotify. But once again, guys, like Brad says, keep the shiny side up and I'm going to restart that. Keep the shiny side up and the rubber side down. Good night and peace.